I'm Julie Zenner along with Dennis Anderson, and here's what's coming up on Almanac North.
Minnesota's Attorney General was in town today for a public hearing on the synthetic drug problem in downtown Duluth. We will find out what she heard from concerned residents.
Jobs can be hard to find for recent college graduates, but a new program is helping young people network with business people, a step toward finding that first job.
And we will have the week's top business news and a news file story from 25 years ago.
It's all coming up next on Almanac North. Hello and welcome to Almanac North. Thanks for watching. Denny, an important public hearing in Duluth today.
All about synthetic drugs and what it's doing to the community.
It's a terrible story. Our guests were at the hearing, so let's get started.
All right, Julie, thank you so much. Welcome, everyone. An overflow crowd was on hand this afternoon to share their concerns with Minnesota's Attorney General and a panel of state lawmakers. How to stop the sale of synthetic drugs was the primary focus of this hearing. The drugs can have dangerous side effects and have created a host of problems in downtown Duluth. So, what can be done? Joining us is Minnesota Attorney General Lori Swanson, the state's top law enforcement officer, and Representative Erik Simonson of Duluth chairs a new House committee that is looking into the issue of synthetic drugs. Thank you both for being here. Attorney General, what was your key takeaway from the hearing today?
Well, I think the damage that's caused by synthetic drugs, I mean, we heard powerful testimony from people around Duluth about the damage and destruction that's caused by these drugs. A mother whose son was 24 years old, took the drugs, had a heart attack, went into a terrible health situation. She ended up civilly committing him this week. Other ER doctors at the local hospitals who talked about the tremendous turmoil caused in healthcare to people who take these drugs. You know, these drugs can be very, very dangerous. In some cases, they can cause death. There's a young man in Blaine, Minnesota, who bought these drugs on the internet and ended up losing his life to them. The damage that's caused can be permanent: kidney damage, psychosis, and I think that you know, there's a public awareness here that has to take place just in terms of how dangerous these drugs are. And then hopefully some solutions that can come forward.
Is there anything your office can do about it, or do you have to rely on the legislature?
You know, we're looking at all kinds of different options, both at the city level, the state level, and the federal level. In the end, I think it's going to be a combination of civil laws, regulatory laws, criminal laws to try to combat this problem. You know, the war on drugs is hard. That's why it's called a war, because you know, people have addiction in this country, and you know, you stamp out one type of drug, another comes up, and it can be very, very challenging. But on the promising front, there have been some court decisions that have come down in Minnesota. Moorhead, for example, passed a synthetic drug ban ordinance, or a paraphernalia ban ordinance, because the places that sell synthetic drugs, they're not just selling the drugs, they're selling paraphernalia that you need to take the drugs, and that's a real profit center for the stores. And so Moorhead passed an ordinance that was just upheld by the federal court in Minnesota here just in January, saying it's constitutional. And it says that we don't allow drug paraphernalia in the city, and anyone who has it can get charged with a crime. And a Moorhead officer actually drove across the state today to testify at the hearing.
Really?
And he said they've had phenomenal success with that ordinance in terms of getting rid of some of the head shops. So that's something I think would be a great thing, and cities around Minnesota could do.
Representative, what's the value for lawmakers of coming to a meeting like the one in Duluth today and hearing real stories from real people?
Well, you know, I think it's really important to understand that Duluth is really kind of the ground zero of this problem in Minnesota. And we that live here experience this each and every day, and we're very familiar with the impact on our community. But other folks that aren't from Duluth may not have ever seen it in their community, may not have even heard of what synthetic drugs are. And quite frankly, the term itself is a little bit misleading. So bringing them here and bringing them to places like this where they can see firsthand and hear the stories firsthand from folks that are involved day after day after day, I think it really hits home the true magnitude of the problem.
Have we come to the point where when we think about alcohol and in some states marijuana, we can't really beat it, so we have to regulate it? Are we at that point?
I think we have to look at regulation along with the criminal laws, along with other civil laws. But when it comes to regulation, for example, I know Representative Simonson's been looking at this Indiana law, and we are too. In Indiana, they require retail merchants to have a certificate, and what the government giveth, it can taketh away. And so Indiana law was recently modified to say if you're convicted of a synthetic drug crime, then you can lose your certificate to do business in that state. So kind of taking a regulatory approach. In Minnesota, we could do something like that with our Department of Revenue to require certain merchants perhaps to get a certificate, or a city could pass an ordinance to that regard. And then if they offend, you can take that power to do business away. And so I think looking at a regulatory approach and also a regulatory public health approach, because the crap that's being sold is incredibly destructive and costing lives. And, you know, being able to try to regulate that product in a way that helps protect the public health and safety, I think is going to be important.
Representative, this is not a new topic at the legislature. How much progress has the state made so far in combating the synthetic drug problem, and where do the current laws fall short?
Well, you know, I think we've made some really good progress actually, and the laws that we have on the books today are good laws, they're strong laws, and they're working. What we need to do now is take the next step, right? And I think that it's important to say that the laws that we have today are not bad. They're not faulty laws. They're working. They're doing what they're designed to do, and we're getting some good results working with those laws. But what we want to do is take the next step, because you know clearly we need to take additional steps because we're still seeing the problem. So we need to go to the next level so that we can get these things off of our streets, out of our communities, and get things hopefully back to normal.
So take us to that. What is going to be done? What do you want to see done? The legislature is going to have to get tough?
Right. Well, we are going to have to get tough, and it's going to be a difficult task. And part of our task is educating the lawmakers themselves as to the magnitude of this problem, because what we're going to ask them to eventually pass is going to be fairly strong. We have two goals in this committee, and one is to develop legislation that will be effective. I mean, that's clearly the obvious goal. But the other piece is we need to develop an educational portion that we can target towards, you know, middle school, high school, college-age kids about the impacts of these drugs, because these are not harmless drugs. They're being marketed as legal, and therefore they're safe. But quite frankly, they're worse than many of the illegal drugs that are out on the street today.
Yeah.
Are there other states where they have been effective at that educational piece, you know, where you could tap into the resources that have already been developed rather than reinventing the wheel?
You know, we've been looking in our office at what other states are doing, and there are some states that have, for instance, I mentioned the Indiana law, and that's, you know, promising. Perhaps like in North Dakota, they have cease and desist authority for regulators. That's something that I think makes sense, so it could be real streamlined, and the person can challenge it in court, but the order is out there. In terms of the public education piece, we've done that before on other drugs like methamphetamine or other types of drugs that we've had, heroin, crack cocaine. And I think we absolutely need to bring that to bear here. We heard so much testimony today from people in healthcare and homeless shelters taking care of at-risk youth who say that these kids don't appreciate how dangerous they really are. We also had some people come forward who used these drugs and had terrible health effects from them, and they said they'd be willing to even go into schools and you know scare kids from using them. And I do think, frankly, we need to kind of get that scare out there so that people are aware of this.
Lori, are there attorneys general in other states who have the power to close down such shops?
Yeah, there are. One of the things about our country is every state is different. And so in other states, some attorney generals have cease and desist authority, or they have power to enforce the food laws. We don't have that here. Now, even in some of those states, so in North Dakota, the Attorney General has cease and desist power to enforce the drug laws. I don't have that here, But in North Dakota, the Attorney General issued 2 of those orders, and we called those shops last week, and they're still operating. The orders simply say don't sell this drug and this drug and this drug, but they're still operating. And that's where I think we need all hands on deck, throw a lot of resources and laws at the problem so that in the end it will be some combination of a comprehensive regulatory scheme, all levels of government, all types of regulation coming to bear.
Is it helpful to have the Attorney General's office on the same side working with you on this?
Oh, absolutely. You know, the more people that we have involved, the better. And this is going to require all of us to be working together, both, you know, quite frankly, it's going to be federal, state, and local authorities working together to combat this, because it's not going to be one piece that resolves this problem. It's going to be all of us working individually, yet at the same time together to come together with a solution.
Now, Duluth has a very real problem, an immediate problem right now with the last place on earth. Do you see perhaps Duluth being the source of the solution for other communities too, as we work through our problems here?
Yeah, it's interesting you ask that. I think it can help be the source of some solutions. In the methamphetamine area, for example, it was really local cities around the country who first said, we're going to require drugstores to put pseudoephedrine behind the counter so people can't get what they need to make meth. And then state legislatures responded around the country, and then federal authorities did. And so I think there are some real tangible ideas out there that the city of Duluth could pass in terms of ordinances. I mentioned the Moorhead one, ban drug paraphernalia. Hundreds of cities around the country ban synthetic drugs. You might say, well, why do that if it's already illegal at the state or federal level? But one of the ways cities and governments speak is through the laws they pass. You pass a law and it sets a tone and culture against certain kinds of conduct. And then as well, because these drugs are constantly being tweaked and altered, city councils are nimble. They meet around the year versus the legislature only meets 4 or 5 months a year. And city councils being a body that is deliberative year-round, they can respond to this whack-a-mole problem where you deal with one particular drug, another pops up. And so I think hopefully there are some positive solutions as well that could be looked at there.
Which begs the question, can anything be done to the manufacturers of synthetic drugs? Where are they in all of this?
Well, yeah, the where is the magic question.
China.
Where are they in all of this?
China
I mean,
oftentimes, yeah.
they're oftentimes out of country. Yeah, they could be in the backyard. I mean, they're all over the place, and that's another interesting piece of this is trying. We can deal with. Hopefully, we can deal with the retail side of this,
Yes.
right? But we also have the what's available over the internet. So that's going to require some federal cooperation as well, and this is going to take a while to solve,
isn't it?
right? And what's sad for Duluth is we have this really immediate, acute problem that needs to go away. And everybody's working as hard as they can to try to accomplish that.
I keep hearing Duluth is ground zero in the state.
Attorney General, what happens if the state does not get a handle on this problem and get a handle on it soon?
I think the state is doing the best it can. The state of Minnesota collectively is doing the best it can. I mean, we had 8 state agencies were there today at the public hearing, in addition to 7 legislators that Representative Simonson convened from around the state. I mean, we had Brainerd represented, had the police chief in Brainerd come, the Moorhead Police Department came, and so I think Minnesota, as Representative Simonson mentioned, we have very strong laws on the books already. I mean, it's a misnomer to say we don't. We ban synthetic drugs, we banned analogs, so if it's a lookalike, and so hopefully we can do more, though, to address it, and I think we will do that. It's just a difficult fight and a difficult problem.
Attorney General, Representative, thank you both for being here.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, let's dig into our news file archive for a look at what was making news 25 years ago this week.
The idea is a simple one. The Army Corps of Engineers could open these floodgates on 6 Grand Rapids area lakes to up the flow of the Mississippi River. Right now, water levels are so low that 2 hydroelectric dams and 1 sewage plant in the Twin Cities area are in danger of running out of adequate supplies of water. But officials with the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources are reluctant to put the plan into effect. They say increasing the flow of the Mississippi would lower water levels of the lakes that feed the river, and there's no way to tell what effect that could have on the area's biggest industry.
This part of the state is very, very dependent on tourism, and any significant impact on tourist use of the area just filters through the entire economy. So that's an immediate problem.
Dick Carlson owns the Southwood Resort on Lake Pekegama. He says the lower lake levels could really cut into his business, but if the need in the Twin Cities becomes great enough, he would support the plan. He and other resort owners just want to make sure they're treated fairly. State DNR officials agree with that point of view. They say they will not allow the plan to go into effect until full water conservation measures are implemented in the Twin Cities, including a ban on lawn watering and car washes. And even then, the mighty Mississippi may have to run even drier before the flow at the headwaters is turned up. In Grand Rapids, John Schottel, KDLH News.
It's the time of year when recent college grads hit the street looking for their first real jobs. With the national economy growing slowly, finding a job can be difficult. And sometimes, as the saying goes, it's not what you know, but who you know. That's the idea behind a fledgling program that helps college students start the networking process that can lead to a good job. And joining us now is Rob Karwath, Managing Director of TwinPortsConnex. Andrea Gordon is the Assistant Managing Director of TwinPortsConnex. And Mary Dedeke is a recent College of St. Scholastica grad who has found internships through the program. And welcome. Thanks for being here tonight.
Well, thank you for having us.
Yeah, Rob, TwinPortsConnex is just wrapping up its first year. How's it going?
It's our first full year. We are, I think it's fair to say, a one-of-a-kind program in the country. We have not found anything else like it. We welcome young people who in many cases are here already and say, if you want to stay here, we want to help you. And we want to help you succeed economically. And that means finding a job ultimately. But really, before that job part happens, we recognize that it's some work that usually backs up into their college career or as they're younger. And we want to get them involved with mentors. We want to get them involved with internships. And if we do those two parts right, the third part, the job, becomes something that is easier.
So how do students plug into TwinPortsConnex?
We are connected with the different colleges and universities, and we're connected with young people generally in our community. We have a website that people have really kind of come to us for, but the good news is we're finding young people really want to stay in our community. We have a unique place, a place with a good, strong sense of place. We all know the benefits of being here, and more young people are saying, hey, I can make it work here, and I want to make it work here.
Andrea, how interested are the local businesses and business professionals in engaging in this dialogue and these relationships with students as they come up? Are you getting people who are stepping forward to be mentors? Are you getting people who are providing internships within their companies?
Absolutely. I think that's one of the strengths of this community is people are really on board with the idea of keeping young people here. And as I meet with young people, I'm able to tell them that message that here's a community that's really invested in your success, that's invested in its future, and we're able to see that and make that connection happen. And people have been amazing in opening their doors and opening their eyes to be able to see different ways of being able to bring young people in.
Sure.
I think everyone has a context of some young person in their life they care about who's gone through the job search process or who has recently graduated, and they feel and understand what that is like and what can I do as a business person to help open those doors too.
And Mary, what degree did you just recently get, and what do you hope to do with that, and would you like to do it locally?
Well, I just graduated from the College of St. Scholastica with a degree in communications, emphasis of public relations and advertising. And what was the other question?
If you'd like to do it locally.
Yeah, I definitely wanted to be able to start in a place like Duluth. It just has such a sense of community that I haven't been able to feel anywhere else, so I was really drawn to that.
So you've been here 4 or 5 years, you know the town, you've plugged into the town, really.
Definitely, yeah. Being here for 4 years, being at the College of St. Scholastica, it was just great, and I really knew I wanted to start my career somewhere here.
How did you plug into TwinPortsConnex, and how did they help you?
Well, I heard about it from a friend. Her name was Asha Long, and she just connected me with Andrea Gordon, and we had a initial meeting, and we kind of just hit it off from there. It was such a great meeting, and we're both on the same page and same vibe, and it worked really well.
Sure. Andrea, what kind of advice do you have for young people who are looking for a career to stay in the Twin Ports or this region?
Well, I think you have to look at yourself as a marketable object. How is it that I make myself stand out from everyone else who's graduating? What am I doing to be a part of my community, to be engaged in my community? Who do I know who can bring me into the work that they're doing on a regular basis and show me what they're doing? So it's not just the typical, I'm graduating and that expectation I'm immediately going to get a job. It's going to take some legwork. It's going to take some real development of your portfolio of who you are as a person. And that's what I do when I work a lot with one-on-one with young people, is sitting down and saying, this is where I'm at right now. If this is where you want to get, what steps do you need to take to get there?
So Rob, a follow-up. Are there jobs here?
You know, everybody, I think, for many years said, well, there are no jobs and we have to go. And the reality is every employer we talk to has a job opening. They're usually so busy they just can't get to it. But if we can bring that employer a talented person like Mary, and that Mary or that other person can help that person to grow the business, that's going to turn into a job. And that's what we've seen. We've had 30 internships or jobs created just this spring and summer. And it's that match, like Andrea said, of the talent with the need there.
Of course, the students coming out, they don't all know all the tricks. Or there's some major mistakes that young people make when they go out looking for that first job.
I think a big one, and Andrea sees it a lot, she deals with the students, is they are not focused, and she mentioned that just a minute ago. They also, I think, as they get closer to graduation, there's a feeling of desperation, not surprisingly. They've got to find that job. And what we try to do is slow that down a little bit, and hopefully we're backing it up earlier for college students coming up. We're getting involved as sophomores and juniors. But I think taking it slowly and recognizing it's not just going to be that job, we're going to have to work at it. And Andrea's done a great job.
If you apply for work someplace, should you learn something about the company with whom you want to be employed?
Absolutely. I think that's a big piece that we work with students on, is what kind of legwork can you do to really understand where it is that you're going to be a part of. If you're applying for a newspaper, have you read the newspaper? Have you read it really thoroughly? Do you know each page and what it means? Do you spend some time on the website getting to know the characters and who plays what role in that company? So when you go into interview, you're not put on the spot with any of those questions, that you're not caught off guard.
Homework doesn't end at college.
Exactly.
Mary, talk about your internship. You have 2 internships through TwinPortsConnex?
Well, I just finished my internship with the Duluth Superior Community Foundation. And it was a really unique one because I got to work with each department, and that ranged from communications to grant writing to the scholarship to also the fundraising department. So it was really unique, and I got to do special projects with each of them. So it was really great. I met a lot of great connections and had a lot of real work that I wasn't able to do and learn through school. So it put my theory to practice. That was great.
And what are you planning to do now?
Well, I am looking for a job at the moment, but I do have an internship with Rob Karwath, and I'll be working in North Coast Communications with him.
Rob, are there leading jobs for new graduates? I mean, top jobs in the area that are perhaps screaming for people?
We see, like other communities, the technology sector in our community is always looking for people. And I think there's a shortage of folks everywhere you go in the country. But one of the solutions that we're working with that industry to try to solve that shortage is finding people who might not see technology as their industry, but they're trained in project management, they're trained in marketing, and all of those needs exist in the technology field. Can we take some of their skills and transfer them to places where they might not have seen themselves?
So Andrea, if somebody would like to make that connection with TwinPortsConnex, what's the best way to do it, and what resources should they go through?
Absolutely. There's our website, TwinPortsConnex.com, where people can connect with us there. I sit one-on-one with anyone age 18 to 35, which is the demographic that we target with, and I will look through what they've done and give them some ideas of what they could be doing and start to make some of those connections. So even just emailing me, Andrea at TwinPortsConnex.com, to set up a one-on-one appointment. And also for businesses who want to outreach, who want to bring in an intern, who might just want to discuss with us what would it mean to have an intern, what does that look like. That's something we can help businesses with too, who have never had an intern, to understand what that means, what that role is, how to work with young people, and how to make it a beneficial experience for both parties.
All right. Well, Mary, Andrea, Rob, thank you so much for coming in and sharing some information.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Thank
what
you
you're
very
doing.
much.
Thank you very much.
It's time now for a look at the week's top business stories from Business North. A long-anticipated foreclosure action against Telemark Properties and Cable has been filed in Bayfield County Court. Beginning in December, Telemark Properties stopped making monthly loan payments to Great Southern Bank of Springfield, Missouri. The lender's attorney said the bank is seeking to recover nearly $860,000. The monthly payments are nearly $8,000. Mortgage holder Dick Short says he is negotiating with 3 different groups of potential buyers.
A 24,000 square foot renovation and 49,000 square foot addition to Riverwood Healthcare Center in Aiken is complete, and a grand opening was held Thursday. The emergency room and intensive care unit were relocated as part of the $21 million project. As a result of the expansion, 18 new positions were created. The project also created 130 construction jobs with a payroll of $6 million.
Minnesota Power has dedicated its Bison Wind Energy Center in North Dakota. The center uses 101 wind turbines to generate 292 megawatts of renewable electricity for customers in northern Minnesota. The Duluth-based utility invested $500 million in the project, according to Al Hodnick, President, Chairman, and CEO of Elite, Minnesota Power's parent company. Additional turbine investments are likely in wind-rich North Dakota as Minnesota Power expands its renewable energy capability. Minnesota has a mandate that utilities produce 25% of their energy from renewable resources by the year 2025. For more on these and other stories, visit businessnorth.com.
Our time is nearly up, so call now if you have a comment. Dial 218-788-2849 to leave a message or send an email to almanacnorth@wdse.org. Don't forget to visit the WDSE website. It's a good source for the latest news and information from the station. And Dennis, I imagine a lot of graduation parties going on this weekend because my mailbox was full with 2 graduates of my own.
This is springtime. Springtime's graduation time. Graduation means party time.
Party time, exactly. And finally tonight, we'll leave you with some video from the recent sea trials of the USS Minnesota, the Navy's newest nuclear submarine. The sub is 377 feet long, can travel at a speed of 25 knots, and can stay underwater for up to 3 months. The Minnesota is scheduled to be commissioned by the Secretary of the Navy on September 7th. She looks like a beauty. So for Denny and the crew here at Almanac North, I'm Julie Zenner. Have a great weekend, everyone.